I am Taraline Campbell, and I am so excited tonight. I want to welcome you to our second actually, Care for the Caregiver session. Tonight, we have a wonderful topic planned to discuss, and a much needed one. And we're going to talk about advanced care planning. And if you don't know what that is, no worries. That means you really need to be here and you really need to catch this discussion. So, first and foremost, I want to introduce you to my special guest, who is one of my friends, my sister girls, one of my sorority sisters. Y'all know I believe in tapping into the talent that I already have in my circle of sisters and people who are well qualified. Because Taraline doesn't know everything, but I do know how to find people who do know what I need to know and what you need to know. So, yes, I want to introduce to you this evening Coretta Skelton, Lcsw-C. Yes, she got some initials behind her name. Coretta is a licensed clinical social worker who has served in the state of Maryland for 18 years. Coretta holds a Bachelor of Science degree in social work from Morgan State University and a Master of Science in social work from Barry University. Coretta strives to be a lifelong social worker and is a strong advocate for self-care and life balance. I may need to have her back. She is currently a clinical supervisor and mental health therapist to adults and seniors. Coretta is a dedicated social worker with experience in mental health counseling and hospice care, among others. So she is a subject matter expert. She views her occupation as a calling to serve her community. Coretta empowers clients and families through therapeutic insight and perspectives regarding trauma, sudden loss, anticipatory grief, end-of-life separation, processing of end-of-life circumstances, and coping with life challenges. Without further ado, I want to bring Coretta Skelton to the virtual stage tonight. Welcome, Coretta.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
I know this is a little different for you, Coretta, but thank you for not saying no when I contacted you. But I know you have a wealth of information along the topic of advanced care planning. And so I really, really want to, I'm excited about hearing from you tonight and about you sharing this topic because it is one that is very much needed. So let's get right to it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So first, Coretta, can you share in a nutshell, what is advanced care planning?
Well, advanced care planning is you planning for yourself as your life changes. So in the event of your death, because we all will die, it gives you the opportunity to say what you want for yourself when things change in your life, when you enter a different phase in your life.
Okay. So it's basically like part of the genesis for me doing these sessions and these live segments is one, the work that I do with caregivers, but you yourself are a caregiver.
Yes.
And you didn't have you have the life experience as well as the educational and the professional background for what we're discussing. And so one of the things that I am trying to do and endeavoring to do with this is to help people. I phrased it like this today, that one of the aspects of self-care to me is dealing with things that dealing with unnecessary or eliminating unnecessary stress by planning some things in advance. Yeah. Because one of the challenges that Taraline recognized as a caregiver is there was no workshops back then, 11 years ago when I first became a caregiver. There were no workshops. There was no real training per se to help prepare you. As I went into it, then I identified some a few years in, So I'm like, if I can help people to, through some of the experiences that I encountered and was not knowledgeable of,
Mhm.
such as advanced care planning, then I think I will have fulfilled my, as you mentioned, as I read in your bio, calling and life's work. So I know people shy away from advanced care planning, but it's not just for caregivers also. So like if you're out there and you're on watching tonight, simply scrolling past this, I would have put a pin. You don't need to be a caregiver. This is a topic for everybody. And so if you're watching this tonight live, I would invite you, please like, share, definitely share this on your own social media page, because you never know who may scroll through in your timeline. But yeah. Go
And
ahead.
to add to that, I would say if you're 18 years, or older,
Okay.
and you are an independent individual and you like your independence, then advanced care planning is something that you should do for yourself.
Okay. Really, every adult.
Right.
Yeah.
We think about like advanced care planning is something you do for someone older, for like your parents, but it is something that you do for yourself. If
Mm,
if you ever get into a car accident, if
okay.
you ever have a complications with what they would say a return surgery, a routine surgery, um, advanced care planning is beneficial to you because you have already said, if something happens to me while I'm doing this, or if something happens during this time, this is what
Mhm.
I will want, or this is who I would want to make the decision for me. Uh,
Gotcha.
and a lot of us like to have our say in things, and this is the best way to have a say in um, every aspect of your life. And so I think that this is like something that everyone should have. Um, I think about like growing up, I think about individuals who have lost their lives suddenly, and and like their funeral was maybe something that they didn't want it to be, um, or they were on a ventilator or assisted breathing and they didn't want that. And so if
Okay.
individuals don't know where documents are, or if it was only conversations that were had with a cousin of a cousin, or your best friend, and your family doesn't know, then emotions can take over, and you're on assisted living type of mechanisms, and you didn't let anyone know.
And
Um,
it's so great that you say that, Coretta, because I have encountered that with people in my own life who wanted someone. They articulated that they wanted one thing at their funeral, wanted one person to either eulogize them, or they didn't want a full out funeral, whatever their wishes were, and no one knew that it wasn't in writing, and or perhaps they had property and they wanted it disposed of in one manner, but nobody knew that, or at least it wasn't in writing. Therefore, those wishes were not adhered to. And thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Something just came to mind too. A lot of people, I believe, shy away from some levels of advanced care planning.
mhm,
Not one, because we don't like to talk about death.
mhm.
But the other is because they think, well, I don't own any property, so it doesn't matter what happens when I'm gone. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But I've encountered those conversations as well.
Yeah, so your person is your property. So like
Mm,
if you
your person is your
your
property.
person, so who you are is property. Like you know, God owns you, but he is giving you your body, and you have governance over your body. And so advanced care planning helps you govern over your body. And it's not just like, do I want CPR or don't I want CPR? It's more of like, do I want for people to see me after I've received after I've received a prognosis of 6 months or less? what I want for individual, if I have been told that I am in the end stage of life, would I want for individuals to take pictures of me?
That's good.
If
Oh my goodness, that is so good, because in this digital age,
Mhm.
we have so many, I see photos and things, and I, I'm a definitely a social media person. But at the same time, I believe that there are some things that can be too much and too far. And so I think that it's important to determine how much is too much, not for you, but for the person for whom you are caring, you're visiting, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Would you want social media to know that you're sick? Would you want so some families, or would you want social media to know that you died? Who takes off your social media page? Who turns
Who
that
takes it
off
off?
once you
Okay.
die? Should it stay there? Should you have someone assigned to take that off? Those kind of things are things that we don't necessarily think about. But in this day and age, it is something to think about. Do you have a mental illness? If you have a mental illness and sometimes you've had experiences where you've had to go into the hospital, have you, do you have a person who, when you're unable to make decisions for yourself, is a person who you trust to make, who the doctors can consult with to make decisions for you?
Okay.
Who, what hospital you're going to for your psychiatric treatment? What hospital you don't want to go to? What hospital, like, are you open to inpatient? Are you not? So advanced care planning is about anything for yourself, your personal understanding of what could happen to you and what you would want to happen if it happens.
Okay.
So, like, I grew up knowing that my mom did not want to be on any assisted living mechanism. So she has always said, if I had to be on a ventilator, don't put me on a ventilator. But she
Okay.
never had it written down, and
Wow.
I was under 18. So if something happened to my mother when I was under 18, then it would go to my dad, right? Or because in the state of Maryland, there's what's called the Healthcare Decision Act. If you don't have a document in place, then there's hierarchies of who can make decisions for you. And so if you're married, it would be your spouse. And if there's no spouse, then it would be your adult children. If you do not have adult children, then it would be your parents. If your parents aren't around and you don't have, and you have siblings, then it would be your siblings. Or if you have adult children and you are the person that needs care and you don't have a document, all of your adult children would be making that decision. It's not just the misnomer is, oh, the oldest makes the decision. According to the government, without a document and a specification of who makes that, then it would be all of your children. And all of your children have to come up with an understanding of what they would want the plan to be for you. Like, do I want...
Okay. That's interesting, because you're right. There is definitely that misnomer that it's the oldest child. So you're saying that's not the case.
It's not the case. If you don't want it, it doesn't have to be that way.
Okay.
If you have an only child and your only child you don't feel is responsible enough, or you feel that it would be very challenging for your only child, you can assign someone else, but it has to be in writing.
Okay.
Otherwise, then it falls under who the government says your person will be.
Okay. And if viewers, just a note, if you do have questions, please feel free to put those in the comments. We are monitoring the comments as well. And so, Coretta, I'm part of that group of single. What one of my friends said this the other night. Single, no children.
Mm-hmm.
So for my single, no children folks, because we are plenty, where do we fall in this situation here?
You're the best ones to advanced care planning, to engage in advanced care planning. And look at your village, look at the people around you who care about you and who's willing to make those decisions. Now, if you say, Tara, I want you, I would like for you to, if I can't make decisions for me, I would like for you to make decisions for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to let Tara know. So, if I put it in and I'm going to say, I'm putting this in a document, this is where the document is, this is what the document says, so that you can ask me, well, what in the event of this? How about this? How about that? You also, I think that you can give different responsibilities to different people. You know who your people are.
That's good to know.
And this is for anyone. So there's a document called the power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of attorney is a legal document. Some people can do it, you can get it off the internet and you can fill it in. Other people who have means can get an attorney. Some people say that's the best person to tap into. But you can do it, you can fill in the information, get it notarized, and give copies to people. That document is something that is only valid under certain circumstances. So you can put in it that it's valid as soon as you sign it. You can put in there it's valid if a doctor or two doctors say that you're unable to, you're incapacitated, and you can separate it. So power of attorney, so some people get adorable power of attorney, and that covers your finances and your health. And sometimes it's the same person, sometimes it's multiple people, sometimes you have a backup to the initial person. It's kind of like chess, where certain people have certain responsibilities, and if that chess piece can't do what it needs to do, then the backup comes in. So you're putting things in place for yourself, so that you're putting the right people in place prior to emotions getting involved. So the end stage of life is hard.
Right.
Life is hard, depending on what circumstances come your way. But the end of life is hard because the person or people will not be there for you. And sometimes it's sudden and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have individuals who have life-limiting illness as dementia or cancer, where it has spanned for a period of time. And then other people have sudden loss, where you have a stroke, you have a heart attack, you get into you get shot, you get into, it's so many different things that can happen. And advanced care planning helps with that. It helps to decrease the level of decision making, because as a caregiver, decision fatigue is a real thing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And even as a social worker who works with individuals, helping them, make the best decisions for themselves, it's hard because, I've always said, I need a social worker for me, because it is a territory that is unknown when emotions are involved. when you're so close that the right answer is not always the easy answer, and it's not always the clear answer.
That's true.
And so that's hard. And when you don't plan ahead of time, then you have like all these emotions, all of these questions, and then your person. So if your person's able to make decisions for them, they're grieving too. Like they're grieving the understanding of either their independence, the understanding of their diagnosis, the understanding that they are reaching the end of life. And with that, it makes it harder to make decisions, which also delays making decisions. And I think sometimes when I was working in hospice, telling someone this is like, I know this is a lot, but this is an emergent, like this is a decision you need to make now rather than waiting, because sometimes people change like in 24 hours, or they might change quicker or sooner than anticipated. And then there's a level of ability to make decisions that changes. So doing a power of attorney is you making a decision for yourself.
Versus someone else making the decision.
Versus someone making
and trying to guess what you want.
Right. You can only make that decision when you're oriented, when you're alert and oriented, when you can remember that you've made that decision.
Right.
So sometimes, depending on what your illness is, your cognition may lapse quickly, or it may be intermittent. So you might have a good day and then tomorrow, not so much. And if that's the case, you can't sign a power of attorney. You can't sign a will. Those things are time limited. So you have
back to why it's so important to do it now
at a time.
And I can speak from my experience. When my mom, first became ill, she was in the hospital for a routine surgery. And that's the thing, was like a whole learning experience, because routine surgery, just saw her the day before, and then 24 hours later, boom, it was a whole different situation. And I did not have power of attorney at that time. And so that just took us on a good year and a half of what am I going to do, from the financial aspect to the medical and the legal aspect. Because I did not have power of attorney. It did kick in the as you said, the hierarchy for decision making, but her life, thanks be to God, she survived what she went through during that year and a half. However, we had to adjust her life. She was no longer able to live on her own. I had to apply for Medicaid. And in order to do that, I needed access to her financial records. I didn't have that. I didn't have power of attorney. And the good thing was I knew her bank account information. I knew her PIN number. And so I was able to do a workaround. I don't know if this is right to say, but I created the online banking login because she didn't have online banking. So there wasn't any password that I couldn't remember. I created it and set it up so that gave me access.
Yes.
That was
to a lot of people.
Okay.
I mean,
I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Because I can't get, and I needed that stuff to do the applications for the Medicaid and what have you.
That happens to a lot of people. And so we talked about the Healthcare Decision Act, but the Healthcare Decision Act does not impact finances. So you have to go through another mechanism to get access to the finances. So if your individual is, or if you are incapacitated and do not become competent again, then someone's going to have to become your guardian, and they're going to have to file paperwork
And
to
go to
do
court,
that,
right?
and go to court to do that. And so there's different venues to get around it, but if you can plan, um, and if I can say, Tara, I want you to handle my finances, and then, like I'll have my husband handle the finances, and you handle my medical piece, because I know that he'll X, Y, and Z, and let these people know. So the important part, as in everything, is communication, because
Right.
there's these misnomers, and I don't even know where it came from. Like, growing up, I knew I'm going to make the decisions, but that's because I'm my mother's only child. And then on my father's side, he's said that's who I am for him, but he has to let my siblings know this is the person I am for him. And because if not, then because everyone else has their stuff. Like, we all have different relationships with people. And so what conversations I may have had with my parents may not be the same conversation that they have with other children.
That's good. That's very true.
And so then you get into this back and forth about, like, well, let's wait more, or, ask yourself, and ask, if you're caregiving, ask your person, what does quality of life look like for you?
That's a good, okay.
Because
So what does quality of life look like for you?
Because quality of life is different for different people. So if someone has an illness that requires for them to have a colostomy bag, or have a G tube, and these are mechanisms that require surgery, so that you can relieve yourself of toxins, or so that you can take in take in nutrition.
Yeah, my mom had a colostomy bag for a period of time.
Right, and some people feel like
that is like it can feel very dehumanizing
and limiting. So you may not be able to do certain things, and that might not be something that one may want.
And with that, for her, it was a period of time, but she went in for another surgery to have that removed, and a doctor thought that he could do something, so that she could have it removed and still have a good quality of life, which did turn out to work. For about the last 6 years of her life, that worked, 5 or 6 years. But anyway, before that surgery, having learned my lesson, trust and believe, we made sure we had the power of attorney and the advance directive taken care of before she went in for that surgery, because it was like, lesson learned, won't do that again. And I can speak for myself again, us younger ones, because we tend to think that we don't need it. And as Coretta mentioned, y'all, about, if someone, heaven forbid, gets shot, violence is up in our world. It's just a grim reality. But I remember going in for a surgery about 6 years ago. I made sure that I had designated both medical and the durable power of attorneys, and chose, as Coretta mentioned, I just want to reiterate so that those who are watching, I see some of you catching this, are really clear. It doesn't have to be your spouse per se, but have the conversation. And it doesn't have to be your best friend or your siblings. Choose the person or people who you believe will serve well. Y'all know that, hey, Netta, y'all know some people are going to fall apart at the sight of you in a bed in a hospital or something like that. Like Dion Watts Williams, I see she's watching. She and I talked extensively while during our caregiving journeys. And there are some people in your family who won't be able to take it, who are going to walk out and just be like, I can't deal. Don't choose them. Like, real talk, don't feel obligated to choose them, y'all. You may have to choose really think who is the one, as Coretta mentioned, it doesn't have to be the same person for financial and for medical, right?
Right. And
Because some people will burn through your money
yeah.
like like they just hit the lottery. So don't choose them just because you are related to them for certain things. Lest we have to learn from both professionals who are able to teach, such as Coretta, and from experience. And let's work on. And one of the things that is just making is killing us is the silence and the avoidance. We do need to have these conversations. Talk about the types of, what's the difference between durable and non-durable.
So durable is covering everything. So it's covering your finances and covering your health care. That one part before I get to that, if you are a woman who is pregnant or you're having a baby, like advanced care planning is something that you should, especially if you're a person of color. Advanced care planning is something that because we know that there's a real disparity in our health and the care that we receive. We want to make sure that if something happens while we are giving birth, that it's not like just off the fly. Know what you want. Have someone there who can make a rational decision. Like we see on TV sometimes, Grey's Anatomy is my show, where like there's the question about like the child or the mother, and then the father is having to make these decisions, or there's conflict between the parent, the parent that's not giving birth, and the parents of the person who's giving birth. So you want to let, we talk about our birth plans, but also talk about your advance directives in the event that something changes that's not planned while you are giving birth.
That became more real. Well, not more real, but two things. The Oprah did a special on fatherhood around last month, and it was one of the fathers that she honored was a father whose wife had died shortly after giving birth, and he's raising the children now himself. And then the movie Fatherhood that's on Netflix, that's really popular with Kevin Hart, where the wife passed shortly after giving birth, still in the hospital, and that showed the conflict. It ended well, but the conflict between his parent, the wife's parents saying the baby's coming home with us, and he's like, no, I'm gonna raise my daughter, and they're like, you're not capable, and he's like, I'm gonna show you. But those kinds, so that just, it's like, wow. And as I was watching the Oprah special, particularly, that husband talked about the disparities with Black women and death during the birthing process, and it was like, wow.
Yeah, and you don't know until you're into it. Like when I was pregnant, I would hear about it and I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even think that that's something I needed to do. On top of figuring out the birth plan, getting my bags together, I also need to make sure that my family knows if this happens or if something happens, especially if you're a high-risk pregnancy, what they might qualify as a high-risk pregnancy, because you don't know what will happen during that time. And you just want to be mindful of that. So to your question about durable power of attorney. So durable power of attorney covers both financial and your healthcare decisions, your healthcare advance directives. Okay. And then non-durable is just specific ones. So this person has financial, this person has medical, and it's only valid while the person is alive. So after that, then that's where a will kicks in. And that is, so then the executor of the will is the person who will handle like finances after that.
Okay. So
Or
back
who,
to the durable power of attorney.
yes.
Does one need a lawyer to do any power of attorney, or is a power of attorney, like I've seen forms online that
Mhm.
people can purchase. I've seen them at Staples, at Office Depot. Are those also legally binding?
I would say check your jurisdiction. So
Okay.
depending on where you are, the rules may be different.
Okay.
In the state of Maryland, you can do a document and have a notary witness it, and then it's valid. Uh,
Okay.
there is on the Maryland Attorney General website, there is like the healthcare advance directives. In that document, you just have to have witnesses. You don't have to have but that's only for your healthcare.
Okay.
But you only have to have witnesses, and the witnesses cannot be the person that is identified as the
Right.
healthcare decision maker in that document.
Okay. So takeaway there, friends, is check your state's laws. Check one, maybe in Maryland, medical that is on, you said, the state attorney general's
Yes.
website. So if you're not in Maryland, if you're in another state, check your state government's websites for that information, because I do remember finding that guidance for Maryland there. And I think you kind of answered my next question. I was going to ask, how does one go about creating any power of attorneys? I know, like in a hospital sometimes, or in a nursing home, sometimes a social worker can assist with that. But if you're not in a facility, how does one start that creation process?
So you can look at, I think you should think about what you want. In the the power of attorney says, who does this if, it says, the power of attorney says, who does this if I can't do it for myself, when they can do it, and what things to consider.
Okay.
It also answers questions. So for your healthcare, so it answers 3 questions, 3 scenarios. If the individual is in a vegetative state, what would they want? If the individual has a terminal illness or life-limiting illness, what would they want? And if they were at the end stage of the terminal illness, what would they want? Sometimes people look at the form and say, they're asking the same thing, but it's not. The answers are the same. The scenarios are different.
Okay.
And so some power of attorney documents have an advance directive in it. Some power of attorney documents say this person knows what, you put in in the event that I'm in the event that I have dementia and unable to make decisions, then this person is the person to make this decision. They can consult with doctors, or they should consult with doctors, or they should consult with my husband, or they should consult with my mom, or whomever, in order to make a decision that's right for me. Okay. You can also put in there that you want them to do it the letter of what you're saying. So exactly what I'm saying. You have no editing privileges. Do exactly what I tell you. Others say, according to, after consulting with the doctor, they can make the best decision for what I would have wanted. But so sometimes what I would, like when talking with people, it's like, oh, this person is about to die and they're maybe what's considered a full code. We need to get, or like, do they want to have this changed? Well, in the power of attorney or in the advance directive, this person said, to the letter of the law, this is what I want. And if so, then no, we can't, we can't consult with the caregiver to ask them to change it or to see if they want to change it, because the person has said, to the letter of the law, this is what I want. Like,
Okay.
I don't give you any rights to be creative. But if you say, like, this is my intent, this is what I think quality of life is, and if I am no longer experiencing what I qualify as quality of life, this is what I would want, and you make the decision according to that, then there's flexibility. But it's all about the document. And again, that's why you're planning in advance for it, because you're able to, like, look at scenarios. You're able to talk with professionals who are able to give you guidance about how this might impact decision making, like, or your accessibility to certain things as life progresses.
Okay. So essentially, the advanced care planning is the act, it's the verb, it's the action.
Yeah, it's the action
of planning setting your wishes in place in writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then that includes things like the DNRs,
Yes.
the advanced directive, the power of attorney,
Yes.
the will.
Yes, the guardianships.
The guardianships.
Like, knowing who, if you are like the caregiver of a vulnerable adult, and you are the person who may, and you're thinking about your mortality,
Mm-hmm.
Who takes care of that person? What finances go to this person? While you're ill, who will take care of this person? Who steps in to have that person have someone identified? Who will be that person's power of attorney? Who will be that person's guardian? So those are the things for advanced care planning that should go into it according to what your circumstances are.
Okay. Are there templates anywhere for, like, all of the various documents combined, or would those be I'm just trying to, because I can imagine it. Well, not imagine, I know from my own experience, this is a lot to wrap one's brain around.
Yeah.
So is there one succinct document, or is it, really based on your own life? Like, everyone doesn't need a will. Well, no, everyone needs a will, but everyone may not need a trust or.
Right. So that's where you talk with legal professionals about what would be best for your circumstances. And so some people have, or some attorneys have, they have, like, workshops where you don't have to pay for anything. And so if they are estate planners, if they're attorneys who deal with elder care, they have, like, question and answer nights, or they have frequently asked questions, and they might have documents or checkoff lists there.
Okay.
One, if in doing your care planning, you might want to contact a funeral home. Sometimes funeral homes have checkoff lists of things that you need to get in order.
Okay.
And then when you're talking with them, then that is something, you can ask them, is there a checkoff list? Okay. But I think it just depends on what your circumstances are. I do think that reaching out to legal professionals is beneficial, if only for consultation. So for individuals who have whose finances do not afford them the ability to do so, check into the legal aid for your jurisdiction and seeing what they have or what kind of pro bono support is available. If you're a veteran, finding out if there's some help with that. Like tap into resources. I think sometimes veterans, you don't know about benefits until the end of life, where you could have benefited for things prior to. So I think and that's for many reasons. People have different experiences with serving in the military. And so they have different reasons for why they did not tap into those resources. But that's something that, as a caregiver, being mindful of, was my person in the military, and did they serve for a certain period of time? Were they in what they call theater? And that affords different service connectivity. So it just depends.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, tapping into whatever your circumstances are would be beneficial.
This is so good, because you've touched upon a variety of scenarios that occur in our families and in our communities. So again, and I thank you for that. So to really help bring it home, that it's not just about elder care, it's not just about seniors, but it could be childbirth, going in to have your baby at one of the most beautiful and exciting and joyful times of life, and then it turns, and now here you are. It could be a medical emergency that didn't turn out well, and there you are. It could be taking care of someone who is mentally not able to take care of themselves or make their own decisions, or someone like we often hear of or know of in someone's family, special needs children who become special needs adults that need a caregiver, and having this advanced care planning as a part of our serious to-do list that needs to get done. For all of us, it's just, guys, it's necessary. I often talk about these necessary, I think Phyllis wrote it on the chat in the comments, necessary conversations that can be difficult. So with that in mind, as we come to a close shortly, Coretta, how would you advise and encourage someone? Say, I want to have the conversation. I've heard you tonight, and I want to have a conversation with a member of my family to get their to do advanced care planning, but they don't want to talk about it. You have some tips for that, for addressing or trying to deal with a family member who just does not want to talk about it?
So some people like to talk about things. Other people don't. And so one advice I would give is, if the person doesn't want to talk about it, if it's going to be your responsibility eventually, then start planning. So you start thinking, like, if you know this person, like, that this person would like want to stay in their home, then you think about, okay, so is there access to their finances? Is there, and if not, say, hey, mom. So I'll say, hey, mom or dad, I know that this house and being in your home is important to you. If, like, as you get older, what would you like to happen?
Okay.
If something, so if you are, or if you can say, like, so in the, like, I know that, I don't know, and it's funny because I just think about, my parents talk to me about this stuff growing up. But
You're in the minority. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
and so I just think about, like, I know that my dad wants to be cremated. He's always wanted to be cremated.
Mhm.
I know that, and he wants to go back to his home country. I know that my mom would prefer to be buried in the cemetery with her parents. So having that conversation of, hey, I know you told me this, and I found out that it is best that it is in writing. And we can kind of work on this, and it can be like put to the side, and it doesn't have to come back out until we need it.
Okay, that's good. So it's like we don't have to dwell on it, but we do
Right.
need to address it, put it in writing, and yeah, you are definitely in the minority that you knew what your parents. I knew to some degree, but it was not in writing until later. But you
Yeah.
know, we learned from. Thankfully, God gave us grace, and we had another chance, and we got it. We improved the second time.
Right.
So thank you for that tip. But that's a good, like, I'm going to kind of spoon feed it to you and not force it down your throat, but you can get to that. Your approach, which is so Coretta, is I'm going to catch the flies with honey. But that is really good because it is a delicate conversation. And I know that, and I've encountered members of my own family who just like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. And so,
And also use their language. So if your person has said, I don't want to be a burden to you, say, yeah, like, I know that this is a hard conversation to have. And I know you said that you don't want to be a burden to me. This is something that I think would be helpful in doing this. Like, you doing advanced care planning. So if you are hesitant, or if someone else, it's a gift. It is, I mean, like, we think about money as a gift or inheritance as a gift. This is a gift for your mental health.
I was thinking sanity. Yes, we were right here. Yes,
it is a gift because you don't have to think about, like, am I making the right decision? Because, like, one thing as well, right decisions are they change. So your right decision yesterday may not be the right decision for you today, and that's okay. So you are making the right decision and planning for yourself now so that you can make the right decision for yourself later.
Okay.
Or someone else can make the right decision for you. But it's definitely about making sure that we're all, like, your presence from this life has been impactful. And someone will miss you. And we want to make sure that that loss is not compounded by uncertainty, by, like, not really knowing what's, like, who pays the bills. Is the house going to still be here? Am I going to be able to do X, Y, and Z? Or who will care for you? Those things are a gift to whomever is whoever cares for you, like, whoever holds you close in their heart. You doing advanced care planning is a gift that you didn't know that you were giving. You're giving it to yourself. You're giving it to your future self because you're making the decisions for yourself, and you're giving a gift to the people who have to mourn you as well.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see any questions. I see some good comments, and people are enjoying this discussion. Coretta, thank you.
You're welcome.
50 minutes of just shedding light, as you do, on what can be a very challenging topic. And I can't underscore enough just the importance of us really considering what has been shared tonight and putting it into action, and not don't wait until you're dealing with somebody who's 65 years old. Don't wait until you get a diagnosis that is a terminal one. We do not have to wait, brothers and sisters, but we can take action. One of the things, it was, she didn't have, my grandmother didn't have a will, but well, yes, she did. But one of the things that I remembered most was how she had her plan, she had her DNR, she had the necessary documents written out for my mom, and even to the point where, when for her funeral, my grandmother had written out, primarily, I think I shared with you, Coretta, but my grandmother had written out like 90% of what she wanted at her funeral, down to the song she wanted sung and who she wanted to come and to sing at her service. And I remember, that was like 2000 when she passed away. So 2001. So I remember her talking to me about it though when I was in my 20s. So you know how we think in our 20s. We got like, why are you talking? Why do you want me to come over and talk about this, Grandma? But she was very intentional about it. And when we got to the point of her passing, I did see how it helped my mother and my aunt a great deal, because there was not a question about what she wanted. She didn't have to they didn't have to guess it. They knew who she wanted to eulogize her and all of this kind of stuff. And it was just now put that into, in the operation. Like, I remember she wanted Elder Darlene Cooper to sing a particular song at her service, and that's what was done.
Yeah.
She left me like one of her prized china sets in her will. And so because it was very valuable. And so you just it just helps a great deal.
And one note I would say is that in your advanced care planning, also note when enough is enough. Because, like, with the question of like, what does quality of life looks like, but also when is enough enough? When is it all right to contact like hospice? When is okay to I think that hospice is like the best kept secret. And because it's like an umbrella of services that you didn't know you needed.
It is.
And palliative care as well. So individuals who have been diagnosed with a life-limiting illness, but it's not at the phase of end of life. That is something that could be beneficial when you have received a diagnosis that you weren't expecting. And you have not done advanced care planning, then there are people who can help walk you through this process and walk you through like your as you seek treatment for your illness. But yeah, there's so many things about like end of life, like about how I would want my life to be celebrated once I'm dead. Do you want a funeral? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be donated to science? There's so like we think about, it's just cremation or burial, cremation or funeral. There's a lot of different options out there, and it's not many that we talk about. So there's so many options for end of life planning and for advanced care planning when we take the time to sit down and talk about it. We don't have to spend money for, if that's something you decide to do, but if your finances aren't there, I know that you talked about like life insurance and things of that nature, but if your finances are there, there are other options. And so exploring those with the person that it impacts.
Okay. And so back to the decisions. I think we touched on this, but I do want to just share this, that it's okay also to be open and understand that the person for whom you're caring, or even you, it's okay to change your mind.
It is.
Because that was something that I encountered towards the end of my mom's life. Was she wanted to have a meeting with me to change her advance directive, particularly her DNR.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me up there like 2 months before she passed, and it was about changing her DNR from DNR. Do not resuscitate, for those who don't know what that means. And I remember the social worker saying she wants to change from DNR, but she doesn't know how to tell you. And they said, but you have to hear it from her. And so, we went and we met with her, and because she had started to just decline more.
So from DNR or to DNR? So
I'm sorry, from resuscitate to do not resuscitate.
Okay.
We had decided to change her directive, from life-saving measures to, if I code, do not resuscitate me.
Mm.
And so as hard as it was, I was strong as I could be inside that room, but when I got out of that nursing home in the parking lot, I just lost it. I just fell apart.
Yeah.
But in the end, I respected the fact, and I was appreciative, as we talk about anticipatory grief, and and you mentioned earlier in this conversation, just having to prepare and go through this. I appreciated that I didn't have to make the decision, because she had made the decision.
Yeah.
Even when she decided to change it, I respected that. And I think that helped me to get through that particular period better.
Yeah, because it takes off the pressure of whether or not I made the right decision or not.
Yes. It's like a monkey off my back, a weight off of my back. So, yeah. So again, thank you, Coretta. Thank you. Let me see if there are any other comments, but I don't see any questions. Yes. Thank you guys. Pam, Phyllis, Todd, thank you guys for watching. I thank you all for watching, and those on YouTube as well. Thank you. And have a great evening. Next month, I'll be back. It seems like second Tuesday works, and so I will be back next month. I have a topic in mind. I've just got to confirm my guest, but next month I want to. My intent is for us to explore when you've got to have a loved one in a facility and or home health care assistance and support, things to look out for with that. Want to talk about that. Some things to look out for, because there are some there is sometimes it's trial and error, and then there are just some doozies that we encounter both in the home and outside of the home. So catch me next month. And again, please like, share this post. If you are on Facebook, please do that, so that we can just share this information, a wealth of information. And I also want to invite, if you are a caregiver, I invite you to join the Caregiver Connect Facebook group. That is a group that I have created to help support caregivers, to help support and undergird. You can come in. I understand caregivers are busy, and so you can come in, you can vent, you can ask questions, you can share some tidbits, we share encouragement, but whatever you need, we try to support one another. And I will catch you all next month. Peace out. Thank you, Coretta.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.